Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the reinforced viewing window of the galactic relief station Kepler 442b, watching the distant binary stars cast their amber glow across the asteroid field below. The mining platform's artificial gravity generators hummed beneath her feet, a constant reminder that this wasn't Earth, wasn't anywhere close to the green world she'd left behind 3 years ago to study xenobiology in the outer systems. There in Bay 7, Administrator Keck-Thull wheezed through his translation collar, his cephalopod-like form undulating with visible distress. But I must warn you, Dr. Vasquez, these specimens are ... cursed. Every caretaker species we've assigned has watched them wither. The Zephyrians tried for 2 months. The crystalline collective's best nurturers lasted 3 weeks. Even the empathic healers of Proxima couldn't save them. Elena followed the administrator through the cramped corridors of the station, passing various alien refugees from the Verdani system's destruction. The solar flares had come without warning, a stellar event that had scorched 3 worlds and left thousands of species homeless. But among all the displaced beings, the Verdani younglings were the most tragic cases. Here, Keck-Thull gestured, with a tentacle toward a sealed chamber. The last 12 survivors. Elena peered through the observation port and felt her breath catch. Inside the biocontainment unit, 12 small figures no larger than human children huddled together under heat lamps. Their translucent, plant-like skin showed a disturbing pattern of brown spots, the unmistakable signs of cellular breakdown. Their leaf-like appendages drooped with a sadness that transcended species barriers. "They're dying," Elena whispered. "Yes, the medical teams estimate perhaps 2 weeks remaining." The other residents. Keck-Thull's chromatophores shifted to display embarrassment patterns. They avoid this section entirely. There are rumors that humans will consume them, given your species' carnivorous nature. Some believe you'll harvest their bioluminescent organs. Elena's jaw tightened. She'd heard these whispers before the galaxy's fear of humanity's dietary habits had preceded them into space. Most species were herbivorous, photosynthetic, or energy-feeding. The fact that humans required animal protein made them objects of suspicion and terror. "I need access to their containment unit," Elena said firmly. "Dr. Vasquez, with respect, every species equipped for plant-based care has attempted. I'm not every species." Elena turned to face the administrator directly. "I'm requesting immediate authorization to assume care of these orphans." Keck-Thull's tentacles writhed with anxiety. The liability alone. If the Galactic Council discovers we allowed a predator species near dying refugees ... then don't tell them yet. Elena's voice carried the weight of her 3 years studying alien biochemistry, her doctorate in xenobotany, and her growing certainty that something fundamental was being missed. "Give me 72 hours. If I can't help them, then let them pass peacefully." The administrator studied her for a long moment, his large eyes reflecting the station's artificial lighting. Finally, he activated his authorization pad. 72 hours, Dr. Vasquez. But at the first sign of aggressive behavior, ... understood. Elena was already moving toward the containment unit's airlock dot as she entered the chamber. 12 pairs of amber eyes turned toward her. The younglings shrank back, their bioluminescent patches flickering with what Elena recognized as fear responses. But beneath the terror, she detected something else, a desperate longing that made her heart ache. "Hey there," she said softly, settling cross-legged on the floor several feet away. "I'm Elena. I know I probably look pretty scary to you, but I'm here to help." The largest of the group, barely reaching Elena's shoulder height, stepped protectively in front of the others. Its voice emerged as a series of melodic tones that the translation system rendered as, "The breath stealer comes. We will not be consumed." "Breath stealer?" Elena frowned. Is that what they call humans? The youngling's leafy appendages rustled with agitation. Your kind devours the breath of living things. We have heard the stories. You tear flesh and steal the life force from others. Elena felt a stab of understanding. To a plant-based species, the concept of consuming other living beings would indeed seem like stealing their life force. But there was something else in the youngling's words, something about breath that nagged at her scientific instincts. I don't want to hurt any of you, Elena said gently. I'm a scientist. I study how different species live and grow. Would you tell me your name? The youngling hesitated, its bioluminescent patches dimming. I am ... was Zephyr who dances with morning light. But the light fades from us now. Soon we will join the great composting. The great composting? When a Verdani dies, their body returns nutrients to the soil, feeding new growth. It is ... natural, but we are far from home soil, far from the breath givers who made us whole. Elena leaned forward, her pulse quickening. Breath givers? What were they? Zephyr's eyes grew distant. The ancient stories speak of companions who shared their breath with us, who made the air sweet and rich. But they vanished long ago, before the star fire destroyed our world. As Elena sat in the growing darkness of the chamber, watching these beautiful, dying children, a theory began to form in her mind, one that would challenge everything the galaxy believed about humans and their place among the stars. Elena spent her first night in the containment unit sleeping on a cot she'd brought from her quarters. The younglings had watched her with suspicious fascination as she'd set up her small camp, their amber eyes tracking her every movement. As the station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights, she'd curled up on her side, leaving herself vulnerable. To demonstrate trust, she woke to find Zephyr crouched beside her cot, one small hand extended toward her face. Your breath, the youngling whispered, its voice filled with wonder. It tastes of life. Elena sat up slowly, careful not to startle the small being. What do you mean? The air around you. It's different, richer, like the old stories described. Zephyr's bioluminescent patches pulsed with excitement. May I come closer? Elena nodded, and Zephyr settled beside her cot. The other younglings, Elena noticed, had crept closer during the night, forming a loose circle around her sleeping area. Their translucent skin showed slightly less brown spotting than the day before. Tell me about the breath givers, Elena said. Softly, Zephyr's leafy appendages rustled as it accessed ancient memories passed down through genetic coding. They were our partners in the time before time. The Codex of Roots speaks of beings who walked on two legs, who shared their life breath with us during the growing seasons. Their exhalations carried the sacred gas that made our photosynthesis complete. Elena's heart raced. Sacred gas? The breath of life, carbon dioxide, your translation systems call it. The breath givers would sleep among our groves, and there, breathing would create the perfect atmosphere for our growth. But more than that ... Zephyr's voice grew reverent. Their emotions, their dreams, their very being affected the chemical composition of their breath. When they were happy, we flourished. When they were sad, we grew strong roots to support them. Elena felt the pieces clicking together in her mind. Zephyr, what happened to your people when the breath givers disappeared? We learned to survive. Alone, but we were never as strong, never as vibrant. The Grove elders said we had become only half of what we were meant to be. And now ... double quotes, Zephyr's bioluminescence dimmed. Now we are dying, because we are incomplete. Elena stood carefully, her mind racing through biochemical possibilities. I need to run some tests. Will you trust me? Over the next several hours, Elena collected atmospheric samples from around the sleeping area, analyzed the chemical composition of her own breath, and studied the youngling's cellular structure through non-invasive scans. What she discovered made her hands tremble with excitement. The younglings' deterioration wasn't from malnutrition or disease. It was from atmospheric starvation. Their photosynthetic systems had evolved to work optimally with elevated CO2 levels, but more specifically with the unique chemical cocktail that mammalian respiration produced. The slight traces of moisture, the organic compounds, even the electromagnetic fields generated by human neural activity, all of it created a perfect symbiotic environment. Dr. Vasquez? Kekstol's voice crackled through the comm system. How are your subjects? Elena looked around the chamber. In just 24 hours, the younglings had grown noticeably more vibrant. Their bioluminescent patches pulsed with stronger light, and several had developed new leaf buds along their appendages. Administrator, Helena said carefully, I need to extend my time with them. I think I'm on to something significant. The other residents are growing concerned. There are reports of you ... breathing on them? Elena almost smiled. In a manner of speaking, yes. Kekstol, I believe I've discovered something that will change how we understand interspecies relationships, but I need more time to document it properly. Very well. But Dr. Vasquez, the Galactic Council, has dispatched Inspector Vexani to investigate the situation. She arrives tomorrow. Elena's blood ran cold. Inspector Vexani was notorious for her strict adherence to protocol and her particular suspicion of human activities. If she arrived and found Elena conducting unauthorized experiments on refugee younglings. I understand, Elena said quietly. That evening, as the station's lights dimmed again, Elena found herself surrounded by all 12 younglings. They'd formed a perfect circle around her cot, their bioluminescent patches creating a soft, pulsing constellation in the darkened chamber. Elena who gives breath, Zephyr said, using a formal address that indicated acceptance into their social structure. We feel the change in ourselves. The brown death retreats. Our root systems grow strong. We remember now, added another youngling, one who'd been too weak to speak the day before. The genetic memories are awakening. We remember the feeling of being whole. Elena felt tears in her eyes. I remember too, she whispered. I remember feeling like something was missing, like I was meant to be part of something bigger. As she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the gentle pulse of alien life, Elena realized that the symbiosis was affecting her as well. Her breathing had unconsciously adjusted to a deeper, more regular rhythm. Her stress levels had dropped dramatically. For the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. But tomorrow would bring Inspector Vexani, and with her, the full weight of galactic law and prejudice. Elena would have to find a way to protect her newfound family and prove to the galaxy that sometimes the most feared predators could be the most perfect guardians. Asterisk. Inspector Vexani arrived on the morning transport, her crystalline form refracting the station's artificial light into sharp geometric patterns. Elena watched through the observation port as the Zephyrian official glided through the docking bay, her faceted body emanating the cold authority of the Galactic Council. Dr. Vasquez, Kekstul's voice carried unmistakable nervousness through. The comm system, please report to Bay 7 immediately. The inspector wishes to conduct her evaluation. Elena looked around the containment unit, which had been transformed over the past 48 hours. The younglings had grown visibly stronger, their bioluminescent patches now casting a warm, steady glow throughout the chamber. New shoots had emerged from their root systems, and their translucent skin had taken on a healthy, vibrant hue. Remember what we discussed, Elena said softly to Zephyr. Let me do the talking initially. The younglings arranged themselves in a protective formation around Elena as Inspector Vexani entered the chamber. The crystalline being's optical sensors swept the room, taking in every detail with mechanical precision. Dr. Elena Vasquez. Vexani's voice emerged as a series of harmonic tones that the translation system rendered with clinical detachment. I am Inspector Vexani of the Galactic Council's Refugee Affairs Division. I am here to investigate reports of unauthorized human interaction with protected sapient beings. Elena stood, forcing herself to appear calm despite the 12 younglings clustered around her legs. Inspector, I've been providing care for these orphans under Administrator Kexthul's authorization. Care? Vexani's optical sensors focused on the younglings with obvious suspicion. According to my reports, these specimens were in terminal decline. Now they appear ... altered. What procedures have you performed? No procedures, Elena said. Carefully. I've simply been present with them, providing companionship and comfort. Impossible. Vexani moved closer, her crystalline form casting prismatic shadows across the chamber. Verdani younglings cannot survive without specialized atmospheric conditions and nutritional supplements. Multiple qualified species have attempted care protocols. All have failed. Zephyr stepped forward, its small form remarkably brave in the face of the imposing inspector. Great Crystal Singer, it said, using the formal address for Zephyrian officials. We speak truth. The Breath Giver has awakened our sleeping memories. Breath Giver? Vexani's optical sensors narrowed. Dr. Vasquez, what is the meaning of this terminology? Elena took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would determine the fate of her newfound family. Inspector, I believe I've discovered that humans and Verdani are symbiotic species. We evolved together on their homeworld before some catastrophic separation. The younglings aren't dying from disease or malnutrition. They're dying from the absence of their evolutionary partners. Preposterous. Vexani's harmonics shifted to display outrage. Humans are a predatory species with no documented symbiotic relationships. Your respiratory functions produce waste gases that would be toxic to plant-based life forms. Actually, Elena said, her scientific training taking over, carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis. But it's not just the CO2, it's the entire chemical cocktail that mammalian respiration produces. The moisture, the organic compounds, even the electromagnetic fields from human neural activity. We're not predators to them, we're partners. To demonstrate, Elena knelt beside Zephyr and took several deep breaths. The youngling's bioluminescent patches immediately pulsed brighter, and its leaf-like appendages straightened with visible vitality. You see, Elena said, when I breathe near them, they flourish. When I sleep among them, they grow. When I'm happy, they become more vibrant. When I'm sad or stressed, they develop stronger root systems, as if they're trying to support me emotionally. Vexani's form seemed to vibrate with agitation. Even if your hypothesis were correct, the implications are deeply troubling. You're suggesting that these beings are dependent on human presence for survival. That would make them ... pets. Not pets, Zephyr interjected, its voice carrying surprising authority. Partners. The genetic memories are clear now. We were never meant to be alone. The Breath Givers humans were our companions in the growing seasons, our strength in the deep root times. We shared dreams and air and life itself. Another youngling, one who had been nearly catatonic when Elena first arrived, stepped forward. The Crystal Singer speaks of dependency, but does not the crystal depend on the light to show its beauty? Do not the stars depend on the darkness to shine? We are not diminished by partnership, we are completed by it. Elena felt a surge of pride at the youngling's eloquence. In just 3 days, they had transformed from dying, frightened children into articulate advocates for their own existence. Inspector, Elena said, I request permission to continue this care arrangement while I document this symbiotic relationship. This could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies cooperation. Vexani's optical sensors swept the chamber again, taking in the undeniable evidence of the younglings' improved health. The Galactic Council will need to review this situation. These beings cannot be moved in their current state, and separating them from you now might cause their condition to deteriorate again. Then you'll allow me to continue caring for them? Temporarily, Vexani said with obvious reluctance. But Dr. Vasquez, understand that the galaxy views your species with considerable suspicion. If any harm comes to these younglings, if there is any evidence of exploitation or abuse, the consequences will be severe. After the inspector left, Elena found herself surrounded by 12 sets of glowing amber eyes. The younglings had remained remarkably calm during the interview, but now their bioluminescent patches flickered with anxiety. Will the crystal singer separate us? Zephyr asked quietly. Elena gathered the small being into her arms, feeling the warmth of its photosynthetic processes against her skin. Not if I can help it. But we need to be prepared for challenges ahead. The galaxy isn't ready to accept that humans can be caretakers rather than predators. As she looked around at the faces of her adopted family, Elena realized that this was only the beginning. They would need to prove to an entire galaxy that the most feared species could also be the most nurturing, and that sometimes the greatest. Act of love was simply breathing together. 3 weeks after Inspector Vexani's visit, Elena found herself standing before the Galactic Council's emergency session on Kepler Station. The grand amphitheater was filled with representatives from dozens of species, their various forms creating a kaleidoscope of alien biology. The air hummed with translation systems working overtime to convert the cacophony of languages into comprehensible communication. Elena had never felt more alone or more determined. Dr. Vasquez, the council speaker, a massive crystalline entity named Morthek, addressed her with formal gravity. You stand accused of conducting unauthorized experiments on refugee sapiens. How do you answer? I answer that I have provided care to 12 orphaned younglings who were dying, and they are now thriving, Elena replied, her voice carrying clearly through the amphitheater's acoustics. A wave of concerned murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Elena had spent the past 3 weeks documenting every aspect of the human-Verdani symbiosis, and the results were undeniable. The younglings had not only survived, but flourished beyond anything the galaxy had thought possible. The evidence presented is troubling, Morthek continued. You claim these younglings require human presence for survival, yet you are the only human in this sector of space. Are you suggesting that an entire species depends on yours for existence? Not depends, Elena corrected. Partners. The relationship is mutual and beneficial to both species. Preposterous, interrupted Delegate Kexnarl, a Zephyrian who's crystalline. Form sparked with indignation. Humans are predators. The idea that they could nurture plant-based life is contradictory to everything we know about biological relationships. Elena had expected this reaction. Delegate Kexnarl, may I ask what you know about Earth's ecosystem? Your homeworld is a death trap of competing predatory species, Kexnarl replied dismissively. A world where organisms consume each other. For survival. That's only part of the story, Elena said calmly. Earth's ecosystem is actually built on symbiotic relationships. Bees and flowers, mycorrhizal fungi and tree roots, gut bacteria and mammals. Life on Earth thrives through cooperation, not just competition. She gestured to the viewing screens around the amphitheater, which began displaying her research data. The evidence shows that humans and Verdani evolved together. The chemical composition of human breath is perfectly suited to Verdani photosynthesis. Our sleep patterns align with their growth cycles. Our electromagnetic fields stimulate their root development. Even if your data is accurate, another delegate interjected, this represents a dangerous precedent. If sapient species can be dependent on others for survival, What prevents exploitation? Elena felt a familiar weight against her leg and looked down to see Zephyr, who had somehow managed to access the amphitheater despite the security protocols. The youngling's bioluminescent patches pulsed with determination. Great speakers, Zephyr said, its voice carrying through the translation systems with remarkable clarity. We come not as evidence, but as witnesses to truth. The amphitheater fell silent as the remaining 11 younglings filed into the chamber, their glowing forms creating a constellation of light around Elena. They had grown significantly in the past weeks, now reaching Elena's waist height, their movements graceful and confident. We speak for ourselves, continued Zephyr. We are not pets or dependents. We are Verdani, inheritors of the great root memory, keepers of the ancient songs. And we remember now what was lost. Another youngling, one Elena named Sage, for its thoughtful nature, stepped forward. The root memory speaks of the time before the sundering, when our people shared breath and dreams with the Twice Walkers. We called them the Breath Givers, but they were more than that. They were our companions in the star songs, our partners in the growing time. The sundering? Morthic's crystalline form leaned forward with interest. A great catastrophe that separated our peoples, Sage explained. The root memory is unclear, but speaks of fire from the sky and the scattering of both species across the void. The breath givers were lost to us, and we to them, until the starfire destroyed our world and brought us here. Elena felt tears in her eyes as she understood the full scope of what had been lost and found. Council Speaker, I believe the Verdani homeworld was originally Earth's sister planet. Some cosmic event, perhaps a rogue asteroid or stellar collision, separated our worlds and scattered both species across the galaxy. We've been incomplete ever since. The genetic memories confirm this, added another youngling. We remember the blue-green world, the silver moon, the yellow star. We remember the sound of breath-giver laughter, the warmth of their sleep breath, the feeling of being whole. The amphitheater erupted in discussion as delegates processed the implications. Elena watched as skepticism gradually gave way to wonder. The younglings had presented themselves not as victims or test subjects, but as equals reclaiming their own history. Dr. Vasquez, Morphic called for order. If your hypothesis is correct, it raises profound questions about the nature of sapient relationships. Are you prepared to take responsibility for the care of these younglings indefinitely? Elena looked around at the 12 glowing beings who had become her family. Council Speaker, I'm prepared to do more than that. I'm prepared to help establish protocols for human Verdani partnerships throughout the galaxy. There are likely other Verdani refugees in similar situations, and there are humans who would be honored to serve as companions. And we, Zephyr added, are prepared to teach our new siblings about the ancient ways, about the songs that bind species together, about the truth that strength comes not from standing alone, but from growing together. As the council moved to formal deliberations, Elena felt a profound sense of completion. She had not just saved 12 orphaned younglings, she had helped rediscover a relationship that might heal both species and show the galaxy that its most feared predators could also be its most devoted guardians. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The human Verdani symbiosis would be officially recognized, and Elena Vasquez would be appointed as the first interspecies symbiosis coordinator, tasked with reuniting the scattered children of two worlds. 1 year later, Elena stood in the central chamber of New Haven Station, watching as 47 human Verdani family groups went about their daily routines. The converted space station had become the galaxy's first official symbiosis center, where humans and Verdani younglings were carefully matched and supported as they formed their partnerships. The transformation had been remarkable. What had started as a desperate attempt to save 12 dying orphans had evolved into a revolutionary approach to interspecies cooperation. Humans from across the galaxy had volunteered to serve as companions, while Verdani survivors had emerged from refugee camps where they had been slowly dying, not from disease or malnutrition, but from the absence of their evolutionary partners. Elena gives breath. Zephyr approached, now grown to Elena's shoulder height, its bioluminescent patches pulsing with contentment. The new arrivals have settled well. The younglings from the Tau Ceti refugee camp are already showing improvement. Elena smiled, watching as a young human engineer named Marcus sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by 6 Verdani younglings who had been near death just weeks ago. Their synchronized breathing created a gentle rhythm that seemed to pulse through the entire station. "Any word from the exploration teams?" Elena asked. Yes, Zephyr's patterns shifted to display excitement. The archaeological team on Kepler 442c has uncovered more evidence of the shared civilization. They found murals showing humans and Verdani working together, building cities that incorporated both technologies. Elena nodded, though her attention was drawn to a commotion near the station's communication center. Dr. Sarah Chun, the station's chief linguist, was running toward them with an expression of barely contained excitement. "Elena, you need to see this," Sarah called out. "We've received a transmission from the deep space probe near the Verdani homeworld ruins." They rushed to the communication center, where a massive holographic display showed the probe's latest findings. The devastated surface of the former Verdani homeworld was visible, but beneath the scarred terrain, thermal imaging revealed something extraordinary. "Underground root systems," Sarah explained breathlessly. "Massive, complex, and still alive." The probe detected organized patterns, structures that suggest not just survival, but active communication. Elena felt her heart racing. "You're saying there might be adult Verdani still alive on the homeworld?" "Not just alive," Sarah's voice trembled with emotion. The probe picked up rhythmic, electromagnetic pulses that matched the patterns we've documented in human Verdani symbiotic relationships. "Elena, I think they're calling for their partners." Zephyr's entire form began to glow with an intensity Elena had never seen before. "The great root song," it whispered. "The elder groves are singing the song of reunion. We need to organize." "A mission," Elena said immediately. "A joint human Verdani expedition to make contact." "Already approved," came a familiar voice from the communication center's entrance. Inspector Vexani glided into the room, her crystalline form refracting the holographic light into rainbow patterns. "The Galactic Council has authorized the first official symbiosis mission. Dr. Vasquez, you'll be leading a team of 12 human Verdani. Partnerships to establish contact with the survivors." Elena looked around at the faces of her extended family, the younglings who had grown into confident young adults, the humans who had discovered their true calling as companions, and the growing community that had formed around their symbiotic relationships. "When do we leave?" she asked. "Tomorrow," Vexani replied. "The ship Harmony has been specially configured for your unique crew, but Ilana ... The inspector's tone became more personal. "You should know that this mission represents more than just first contact. If successful, it could establish the first interspecies colony in galactic history." That evening, Elena found herself in the station's observation lounge, surrounded by all 12 of her original younglings. They had grown into remarkable beings, wise, compassionate, and deeply connected not just to their human partners, but to each other and the larger community they had helped create. "Are you ready for this?" Elena asked them. "We have been ready since the moment you first breathed life into our dying forms," Zephyr replied. "But the question is, are you ready to discover what we might become when we are truly whole?" Elena looked out at the stars, thinking of the underground root systems calling across the void, of the adult Verdani who had survived cosmic catastrophe, of the humans who had found their true purpose as companions rather than conquerors. "I think," she said softly, We're about to find out together.